So, what do retailers mean when they say mind the gap? Well, I mean, it can mean a lot of things, and not all retailers say that, but there is an actual meaning behind that term to a lot of shops. Let me explain. Hey there, this is Perch. I got a new little. I think I said this already, but I got a new little headset. Because the way I do these videos, I do a lot of audio recordings on the commute. And so they stack up, and then I get them processed and uploaded, and generally I lose track of what order I recorded things in. So you'll get some continuity errors in my videos from time to time, like talking about one thing and another thing, and like, wait a minute, I haven't heard that one yet. You'll get some of those, and I apologize. I try and remember, but I don't. I do try, um, but not very well. But I got this new headset to do the audio in the car, and it is better. I think the audio quality is better. Still tuning a little bit. I feel like the software itself keeps defeating me. I the volume is kind of up and down, and I tune it, and I use the tools, I read the tutorials, I spit it out the other end. It sounds exactly the same. So something is going on, something dumb, I'm sure. But this new little headset makes a little beep at the start when I start recording, and normally I remember to edit that out, but every now and then I don't. But I wonder what was the who thought that was a good idea? Why did you put that beep in there? Anyway, sorry for that intro. After the intro, so what does mind the gap mean? Well, I mean, first of all, not all retailers say this, and some will look at you with kind of a blank stare when you say it, but a decent amount. I've heard it come up, and mind the gap is this is a. I'm going to tell you where I think it came from originally, and then what its meaning is to comics. My understanding is that this was put on posters in the British UK rail system because there was a gap between the platform and the train, and yokels were, stepping kind of between the train and the platform and like getting their leg wedged in the void and causing injuries and other chaos. It's interesting because I've seen the Mind the Gap posters. I don't know if there was a meaning before that. There probably was. It's now been used on so many things, T-shirts and cups, and it's used for kind of different political movements. And there's just it's so I don't know if there's a different origin, but that's my understanding of it. But it's always funny to me. This is I think people who listen to this show and know me for a lot of reasons. I find Asia, in particular Japan, far superior in so many ways to other countries and what they do. And the train is a marvel in Japan. People say that you probably have heard that, but you don't understand how amazingly good the train is. The train runs like clockwork. And I say clockwork, it's like they start issuing apologies over the loudspeakers if the train is like more than 60 seconds late. That may be a slight exaggeration, but not by much. Like you'll see if you've bought one of the ticketed trains, not just using the Suica card. If you're by one of the sit down trains, then they will go out of their way to apologize for any delay at all. And it's kind of famously the train doesn't delay. So if things are laying in the tracks like rubbish or people, the train's like, well, you shouldn't be laying there, and it just goes forward. I don't know why I'm laughing about that, but it's not funny. It's like there's an understanding in the community that you don't lay in the tracks and you don't screw around on the tracks because you're going to get killed if you do, and so people don't unless they want to get killed. So it's kind of it's a system that works itself out. But in the UK, you have to put up signs telling people not to slip between the train and the platform. I mean, I've not seen those signs in Japan. I see signs like, hey, don't be a crazy a-hole and push people around. I see signs like, hey, make sure you're offering your seat to women and the elderly. I've seen pictures of people like talking on their cell phones with a big no through it, like, keep your mouth shut and don't be a jerk on the train, all in like cutesy anime things. But I've never seen a sign in Japan that has to explain not to put your foot into the gaping void between a train and a piece of metal. Anyway, I'm sorry. This video and nothing about comics so far. But so I promise we're getting there. Anyway, so mind the gap in terms of a comic retailer perspective. What it means simply is that there is a gap between initial order and then when the comic hits the stands. And so if you order issue one, let's say let's use an event, and I want to not let's use Heroes in Crisis. I'm always beating up on Marvel. I don't mean to. Marvel does a lot of great things for the shop. They do a lot of terrible things for the shop. So mixed bag. But anyway, so let's use Heroes in Crisis. So Heroes in Crisis #1 comes out, and it's Tom King, and he sells really, really well. And it's Clayman, and this is kind of going to be a big showcase for Clayman, so that's good. And it's promising, some pretty shocking things that are going to go on, and maybe some death, probably some death. And it's got the word crisis in it, so all the right signs are there. Comic shop's going to order huge. The comic shop's going to order, 500 copies of this book, and in it comes. And what happens is you place your order, and you get final cutoff day. In a lot of cases, you place that order, comic order goes in. Then you wait, and then you have the order form the next month for Final Crisis #2. And so you're like, well, some people won't buy it, but still there's Tom King, there's Clayman, there's Crisis in the title. Demand's probably going to get high, so let's bring that order from 500 down to like 450. It's just give it that much of a decrease. And then you wait another month, and now it's order time again, and it's Heroes in Crisis #3, and you have not seen Heroes in Crisis #1 in your shop yet. It has not arrived, but you're having to order ahead, because if you didn't order ahead, how would they know how to send you the comics in time and how many to print and so on. So Final Crisis #3 comes out. You're like, you know what? Again, here's Tom King, here's Clayman. Oh, the solicit for this one says that a shocking death is revealed. All right, let's go ahead and keep that one at 450. Okay. Then, the catalog for issue 4 is coming out, but issue #1's hit the stands. And the critical reaction to issue #1 is negative. Like, people buy it, and they buy it well, but people are pissed. They're grumbling. You got people in the store saying, well, that was garbage. You have pull box customers who reserved it, who are like, yeah, I want out. Take me off of this. Or you just get the, I'm really disappointed in this issue. I know I reserved it, but this was a terrible issue. In the back of your head, you're thinking, I've got 900 copies of issue 2 and 3 on the way. And there's usually not an opportunity to get in there and say, whoa, let's take that order down to 200, to 100. Let's just drop it. And so the gap, when they say mind the gap in the comic perspective, it means be careful of the gap between ordering your first issue and then the second, third, and fourth in some cases, and then when the issue actually hits the stands. Because if the fans turn on it, if they don't like it, you're going to be left with a giant stack of books you can't sell. And this is especially true where mind the gap gets even more alarming is things like Uncanny X-Men or Batman, although Batman's a consistent seller, but Uncanny X-Men's a good example of hey, let's ship this title, every week or every other week. And so every 2 weeks, let's shoot this issue out. And so the timing between the first issue you're going to order, like X-Men #11, it's like, oh, Return of Cyclops and Wolverine. Hey, this seems pretty good. Oh, fan demand is high. It sells out. I'm going to up my order for issue 12. But you're also having to order issue 13, 14, 15, 16 in that time. And if then an event like an Age of X-Men flops, and the main book, Uncanny X-Men, starts, the art starts getting kind of phoned in, and the plot's going haywire, then you are effed, because now not only do you have, now it's like, now you don't have 2 issues to deal with, you got like 4 or 5 or 6 issues to deal with. And this was especially true back in the olden times when we had 52 and Countdown and those weekly series that DC did. And those were ones that came off of a Crisis event or were leading up to a Crisis event. And those were from the store's perspective, not well liked in a lot of sense, or the drop off was high. By the way, there are fans who love those issues, and there's good stuff in there for sure. But there was a misunderstanding that the art team, the creative team was going to be consistent. There was no way it ever could have been, but people did kind of think that. And then you had this big bounty of comics coming in that were way over what you could sell, and so this creates anxiety in the retailer who does not have choice. You know, they're solely dependent. And I mean, this is the big joke. No matter how much, and there's some indie comic stores certainly that operate that specialize in indie books that make their money off indie books, and usually sell other things as well. You know, like anti-Trump T-shirts or maybe anti-Trump hats or maybe anti-Trump sweatshirts or hoodies. They sometimes have those, but most stores are wholly dependent on Marvel and DC. No matter what you know, those two companies are the bread and the butter. That is what is bringing the rent and the electricity and keeping the lights on. And so, if you get into a situation where uh, you know an issue is hyped heavily, or you get a company that's rebooting all the goddamn time, and then you're having number one issues come out, and they're heavily tied to variants, so you're ordering high, and then you have to order a number two and a number three, and now it's like, you know, Ouija board stuff where you're like, okay, so I ordered issue number one, and this is the third reboot in 2 years, and it's Miss Marvel, and the sales aren't great, but I have to order 50 copies of Miss Marvel, or I don't qualify for the incentive program for the variant cover of, you know, the Carnage cover, so I need to order that because the Carnage audience wants the Miss Marvel cover, and then I need to order issue number two. So how am I going to figure out this? Okay, I currently sell like 10 copies in the store. This is a reboot, so the numbers be higher, but then I ordered higher because of the variants. And now imagine having to do that for hundreds of comics every month. And you're trying to do this mental math. That's what I mentioned at the beginning. You know, I try to remember the continuity of these videos. I mean, unfortunately, I don't do a good job on my videos with continuity because the majority of the brain is all trying to figure out the horrifying ordering scheme and what to do with it. And this is just a reality. So I mean, I'm complaining certainly, and I wish it was different. I wish there was returnability, and I wish there was just, you know, I under returnability is not a simple thing. It's not a simple thing to just wave a magic wand and bring returnability back. Um, but there are things you can do to make life a whole lot easier. You know, one of those things, write your solicits better. Stick to the art team and the creative team that you identify. Ship on time when the order book says it's going to ship. I mean, all of those things help immensely. So if you're not gonna offer us returnability, then at least offer us honesty. Like, that would be nice. But anyway, that's what mind the gap means. Basically, it just means mind the gap between ordering the issue and the issue coming out and what comes between, because that gap getting out of control is what puts stores, you know, out of business. It's what creates stacks and stacks of unsellable things. It's what you know, that is what kills shops, because you hit it on both ends. The shop is paying its, you know, 220, 240 for an issue, plus the shipping. So they're putting money out, and then they've got excess stock they can't sell, so that's got to go somewhere. What are you going to do with it? And the interest, so it just doesn't work. I'm going to do a video here next about, you know, the dollar bin or the quarter bin or that kind of thing, and why those are not good things either. I mean, they're necessities to get rid of extra stock, but they're not good, and I'll explain why. But anyway, that's Mind the Gap. I hope you don't mind my little rambling story, or maybe it was entertaining there for you. I hope you're doing well. You're having a great day. Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, bell notification, follow Twitter, Comic Perch, all those things. Tell a friend. Invite somebody to the party. It'll be fun. All right. Thank you very much.